I noticed as I was going through it, a lot of my messages and decision making were based around fear, things that I was afraid of, that I wanted to avoid because what if this happened? Just a lot of that you carry forward through your life. And I decided to let go of some of that and just begin to believe that the universe is a good place. And sometimes the chips will fall where they may. And definitely things go wrong. There are challenges and frustrations and pain and loss. But there's also a lot of hope out there in the universe. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of the Prairie Fire podcast. So today is going to be a special episode because we're going to actually be discussing the metaphor around prairie fire and what it means to apply a prairie fire to your life. So while you might think this is an obscure, strange metaphor and definitely a strange one to be applied to a financial firm, I'm hoping by explaining the history of prairie fire and how it came to be and how it came to be used as part of our firm and our process will give it a little bit more meaning and help it be just a little bit more better understood as to why I would want to apply the concept of prairie fire potentially to my life and to my financial affairs. So when you think of the word prairie fire, perhaps you have in your mind a little bushfire somewhere in the middle of Iowa. I don't know what purpose it serves. It seems a little silly to me and definitely out there as far as the name itself goes. And so a prairie fire burns away old growth and makes room for new growth. So old weed, things that are clogging air and sun and water to get to the root of other soils are basically suffocating the soil and suffocating the rest of the prairie. So by applying a fire to it, it burns all of that out and it makes room for new growth. And so that metaphor, that concept is very meaningful to us here at Prairie Fire. And so it was somewhere about the time that my children were getting a little bit older, starting to drive, maybe the teenage years, that sort of thing. And I'm starting to get into my middle-aged years and just frustrated with so many things. Frustrated that I was aging and that I didn't feel as good. I was frustrated with my kids. I felt like, man, I've done all this for them and they don't seem to give a rip anymore and are running around doing their own thing. And so just began to do some real self-exploration. As a result of that exploration, then I was just asking myself, what does it all mean? Why am I here? What's even going to matter now in this second part of my life without being a father? I was working for a big bank and I was frustrated with that. It was just lots of, where is this going? How can I add more purpose and meaning to my life? And so somewhere along the way, I was introduced to an actual program and class called Prairie Fire held here in Des Moines. And so I became part of that. It was a 2-year journey and there was maybe 25 of us that went through it together and many folks asking the same questions. What does it all mean? Am I living off of the beliefs and the things that I really want to? And during that class, then we put together what was called a Rule of Life project, where we decided this is how I want to live now going forward. So to get to that point, though, we had to do a lot of burning away of the old, so to speak. And so we would spend a lot of time. It was definitely had a lot of spiritual and religious component, but I took so much more from it than just that it was also analyzing how I dealt with my life and how I made my decisions and where maybe I could apply more risk to my life to make my life more of an adventure. And so as that progressed and I learned about all that and I put together my rule of life, it really changed me and it really gave me a lot of hope for the second half of my life. And the concept itself meant so much to me that when I started my own business 5 years ago, I took the moniker and the metaphor with their permission to become Prairie Fire Wealth Planning. And so that's how we started it. So every day now we're trying to apply this concept with the folks that we work with. And so we're trying to help them see maybe where there's areas in their financial life where they can take more risk. Maybe there's areas where they need to reevaluate a money message that they're living from, and or something in their life that really, if we took away the old and made room for the new, would make a huge difference for them around when they could retire, where they could retire, accomplishing a goal that's super important to them, creating a legacy, giving money to their kids, supporting college, whatever the case may be for them. So what does Prairie Fire mean then for life? And so this quote's from Richard Rohr. He wrote a book called Falling Upward, focused very much on the second half of life issues and basically letting go of all the things we tried to conquer in the first half of life or ladders that we tried to climb. All that's built a really strong container and very important for our development. And now it's actually learning how to kind of let go of that and learn from what we've accomplished so far to create an even bigger legacy going forward. So setting out is always a leap of faith, a risk in the deepest sense of the term, and yet an adventure too. And so when we're evaluating Prairie Fire in terms of our life, it allows us to open up to new things and to evaluate if there are messages that we're living from that maybe aren't serving us very well. I noticed as I was going through it, a lot of my messages and decision making were based around fear, things that I was afraid of, that I wanted to avoid because what if this happened? Just a lot of that you carry forward through your life. And I decided to let go of some of that and just begin to believe that the universe is a good place. And sometimes the chips will fall where they may. And definitely things go wrong. There are challenges and frustrations and pain and loss. But there's also a lot of hope out there in the universe. And so grabbing a hold of that and applying it to my life and helping the folks around us apply it to their lives is something that we've found is really important. And so then what about with money? Because if we're Prairie Fire Wealth Planning, that means we're helping people make financial decisions. We're doing financial planning. We're helping them invest their money prudently. And so how does all of that apply? Well, I think one of the biggest ways that it can help is just the two concepts of scarcity and abundance. And so in the book I wrote, Empty Nest, Full Pockets, I talk about the empty nest journey and how I give an example of a couple, Jack and Diane. Everybody from the 80s probably remembers the song Jack and Diane. So using their story of how one lived with money never being a problem, never a worry, just something that was always there and readily available. And then for another person where it was very difficult and they had to scrape by. And so really a desire to hang on real tight. And so I see this in practice all the time that a lot of folks just want to scrape and save every penny. And that's saving and investing is incredibly important to develop a future of freedom. However, if you're never able to let go, you're never able to enjoy it, then all you're saving for is the fact that you're saving. So finding a way to create abundance inside of that mentality as well. So we spend a lot of time asking questions like, what kind of money messages were you raised with? What was money like growing up for you? Also, what is your money for? What do you want to accomplish with it? So again, with Prairie Fire concept, now we're breaking apart maybe some old messages that aren't serving us very well anymore. And where can we let go? Where could a plan really help to say, maybe I am okay. Maybe I do have enough. Or how can I live my best life with the resources that I have today? We try really hard to help answer those questions and help our clients that are interested really unearth some of these ways that they might be living that if they were tweaked a little bit, or if there was some other data or information added to the process, maybe that would give us a little bit more freedom in our planning. And so those are some of the big concepts that Prairie Fire can really help with when you talk about your financial affairs. So how can a Prairie Fire then help in the second half of your life? So for many of the folks in our podcast, you're either in or getting close to the second half of your life. And again, we don't know the date that happens. That was always something I was asking myself. I'm like, well, now that I'm 40, is that it? Am I going to croak at 80? And how does it actually work? Well, it's definitely more of a process than a moment. And so, but as we're beginning to realize that a lot of the things that we've accomplished, we can be super proud of, but maybe it's time to move on and develop some different priorities. So the first half of life is discovering the script, and the second half is actually writing it and owning it. So we've built a foundation now in our lives, and now we're able to explore new things and to develop new adventures in our life. For me, a big one was getting my rule of life figured out. And as part of that, I really wanted to start my own business. I was raised by an entrepreneur and following in his footsteps to set forth my own business where I could hire and, create jobs and create opportunities for my clients and serve them where they're my boss and not a big bank. All of that was really, very important to me. And I realized if I didn't do it by going through Prairie Fire, I would regret it and did not want to live the second half of my life with regret like that. So gave me the courage to take that step. And so as you go through the process and begin to evaluate your options for the second half of life with all the great things that you've built to this point, you might find there's adventures and opportunities awaiting out there that you hadn't thought of. So how can we apply a Prairie Fire to your life? So a few next steps that I'd like you to think about. You could work to evaluate your life and your money messages that you're living from. So are the things that you do today, the way that you make decisions, not serving you well anymore? Is there something that you're doing financially that you know is destructive, or is you're adding debt when you know that you shouldn't, or you're socking away every penny for a rainy day that may never come? Are you not doing any planning? Are you avoiding looking at taxes? All these kind of things that can really hinder your growth and hinder your flexibility and freedom in the second half of life. this is a good chance to take a look at that. Take stock of all the things that you've accomplished. At this point in your life, there's a lot of things that you've done. I recently made a list of some of the really difficult times in my life that I'd gone through, and I came out the other side. Going through a divorce when my kids were younger, letting them go later in life, starting my company. All these things were big challenges, but when I look back, I realize I've got through them. So when something comes up now, I can remind myself, hey, I've been here before. I've been through a tough time before. I know I can get through this. And so I encourage you to take stock of all the things you've accomplished so far in your life and how that can then be applied to any future challenges that come along. Reevaluate what a future return on life would include. So if you're looking to improve your return on life, not just your return on investment, how would that help? What areas would you work on for that to happen for you? Maybe it's your health and your wellness, where if you're feeling better physically, like you could do a lot more professionally. Perhaps it's something around your career you want to reevaluate, take advantage of a different opportunity, or shift gears. Maybe you're realizing the hand that you hold is the hand that's holding you down and you want to do something different. So evaluate where you can improve the different areas of your return on life. If you go to our website, we have an actual return on life survey that you can take. It's no obligation and completely complimentary. You can look at the actual areas of your life where you feel like you're getting a good return, and areas maybe that you have some things that you want to work on. So if you go to our homepage, you'll see that survey available right there on the homepage. The other thing would be then maybe taking a risk. For all of us, this is different in how we would apply taking a risk. Maybe there's something just nagging in the back of your head that I should try this. I've always wanted to speak a second language. I've always wanted to take a cooking class. I've always wanted to start this side business that I know has got real potential. And so this is that time in life, maybe taking that risk can really open up even more doors that you hadn't even thought of to this point. So another great way to apply Prairie Fire to your life is adding a little bit of risk, being smart about it, of course, but asking yourself, where could I have myself a little adventure that would be really, really fun? And who knows what may happen, but it would sure be fun enjoying the adventure along the way. All right, so Prairie Fire, it's, as you can see, has a lot of meaning to my family and to our business. And I hope that as you explore the Prairie Fire concept, you might find some things that can help you along the way too. You can always find us at pfwplanning.com, where we have lots more content information. Check out our YouTube channel and please subscribe so that we can keep pushing out content. But thank you for joining us for our very first podcast episode on Prairie Fire. And so we're hoping to have a lot more content come your way to help with financial planning matters for sure, but also things like becoming an empty nester or ways to better grow your business, handle all these different financial affairs through the lens of a Prairie Fire of this is how it's always been done. Can we think about it differently? And by thinking about it differently, it become a more meaningful experience for me and my family. So again, thank you for joining us today. We'll see you here in the near future. Thanks.